So I don't know if you know this, but both my parents grew up in the village. In fact, my father grew up on the outskirts of a village called Bantwal. Can you imagine what it would have been like to grow up on the outskirts of a village? My mother grew up in a town called Udupi, but one interesting thing was that both of them moved out of the village and went to the city as they reached their adulthood. You know, because I'm in the village right now, I see that there's no traffic, there's beautiful weather, my breathing's better, and there's obviously no pollution. So, why would anyone want to move away from here to the city? So, I kept having this question in my head. So, one day I went up to my mom, sat with her, and I asked her, Mom, why don't you ever move back to the village? Why do you like sitting in the city with all this pollution and this and that? Why did you even move here in the first place? And she answered all of my questions with one word: opportunity. So, what does this word opportunity mean? Look, in the village, there are a couple of factories. In this village, in fact, there are a couple of factories. And a lot of people work there. But if the population of this village increased by 10 or 20%, then there simply wouldn't be enough jobs for all of them. And it's far more than financial. Opportunity is far more than financial. You can have opportunity in the sense of sending your kids to a better school. You can have opportunity in the sense of moving up the ranks in a particular company. You can have opportunity in the sense of trying new businesses, because a lot of people who can afford your business or afford to buy your product exist in the city. But I'm here to tell you that in 2021, all of that has changed. Now, the credit to this goes to the coronavirus pandemic. After the pandemic, a lot of people's eyes have been opened. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what's changed and why village living has started to become more and more viable as the days pass. Ready? Here goes. So the first and most obvious thing that has changed is digital payments. India is far ahead of everybody else, every other country, in terms of digital payments. It is so convenient for you to just Paytm or PhonePe or whatever tool you use a little bit of money to somebody else. And believe it or not, even in the most remote part of that mountain, there is a fruit seller who will take Paytm. Now it's possible for you as a remote worker to earn money from, say, the United States in any format. You could earn it in dollars. You could earn it in Bitcoin. You could earn it in Ethereum, right? You can earn it in any format. And you bring it here and you use Paytm or many of the other tools to pay that fruit seller up on that mountain. It's a magical world we live in because of the wizardry on our phone. The second thing that's changed is the openness to remote work. Dude, I don't have to tell you, if you went to work 3 years ago, maybe you're a digital marketing person or a coder. 3 years ago, if you went to work and said, hey, I'm going to go to the mountains and live there for a month and do my work from there, you'd get either a slap or you get a pink slip and thrown out of work. So I wrote a book many years ago called Pajama Profit. The book was about how I started my freelance career and how I used to work in my pajamas. Because most of my clients were in the US, I obviously could not move there. I didn't want to move there. So I just sit at home in my pajamas and work, right? It detailed my freelancing career, and we made a claim there, me and my co-author. We made a claim that most people would work out of their pajamas in the future. And we got laughed at. I still remember this one guy from IBM who said, bullshit. Come work in IBM for a few days, you'll know, you'll stop talking about pajamas. Well, guess what? Most IBM employees are probably working from their pajamas right now. So, truth has a way of opening itself up after a few years. And remote work is one of those truths where even though people believed it, the mindset didn't match. The next thing, and my favorite thing, is that there's no goddamn traffic here. I walk to wherever I want. And the side effect of having no traffic is your health gets better. Right? You're walking, you're actually using your legs, which is something that people in the city, especially in the middle of the pandemic, are not used to. See, one thing we get wrong about exercise is that people in the city think going 1 hour to the gym or 2 hours to the gym is exercise, right? That's the way exercise is supposed to be done. But the humans of the past, from 100,000 years ago, right? They didn't do exercise like that. They were walking all the time. They were moving around all the time, right? And they were climbing mountains all the time, right? Hunting for their own food. And that was exercise to them. And here, even if you want to go to the nearest store or if you want to go to an actual restaurant, you have to spend that energy. You have to burn those calories going there. The next thing is that the cost of living in Himachal is peanuts. I've lived in multiple places here, and if you take the average house in Bangalore, if you take some uptown house in Bangalore of 1,000 square feet, it costs you a minimum of 30,000 rupees. In the mountains, that same 1,000 square feet house will cost you barely 10,000 rupees. So you're saving 3 times as much. Over the year, in one place you spend 3.6 lakhs, in the other you spend just 1.2 lakhs. So think about what that difference in 20,000 rupees a month does for you. You have 20,000 rupees more per month to save. You have 20,000 rupees more per month to have fun if you want to buy stuff if you want to. The next thing is something that's really special to me and a concept I stole from Manipal. So I don't know if you guys know, but I actually studied in Manipal. I lived in the hostels. I went to MIT, right, in Manipal. And I loved the hostel. The hostel is the best example of community living. I made so many new friends in the hostel. I had people to hang out with. And there was a period after Manipal where I spent a lot of time in isolation. I was trying to improve myself, improve my skills. And while isolation has its benefits, people have now done research and figured out that if you're isolated for very long periods of time, that's worse for you than smoking. It's horrible for your mental health. And that's why I realized that after many months/years of loneliness, I realized, hey, it's probably time I bring back that Manipal mindset, right? I bring back that hostel ecosystem. Even though I hated the college part of things, I hated the learning part of things, I loved the hostels. So I actually replicated it. In Avalon today, the company that I run, we all live in the same building. Our office is in the same building. If you watch any of our vlogs, you see that we have a lot of fun together. We play football together. We play games like Catan together. It creates a sense of bonding that you would not have living alone in the village, right? So I don't expect you to pack your bags and just move to the village and live in a villa or whatever place by yourself. I'm sure you're going to pick up 2 or 3 people and say, chal yaar, let's go. You pick up 4 people who are pissed off at the city and say, let's go. All those people are probably going to have remote jobs. Eventually 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 16 and whatnot. And eventually you realize you have a village. So I'm sure a lot of people in the comments are going to be like, dude, but loneliness is good. I want to go into the village and just, have my time off. And what you're talking about is not loneliness, it's solitude. And the difference between loneliness and solitude is that solitude is chosen, loneliness is a side effect. What I'm saying is long-term loneliness, if you do that same thing, if you disappear for a year, 2 years without any contact with people, you might as well go move into a prison because it has the same level of mental health effects on you as a prison would. One interesting thing here that I've seen is that in the village, everybody knows each other. So I can go to the shopkeeper and say, hey, my phone's at home. Can I pay you a little bit later? And people are okay with working on credit. There's a level of trust here that does not exist in the city. So I've shown you a lot of pros of the village, but I also want to talk about one con. I want to talk about one reason why I wouldn't move to a village right now, why I think it'll take 5 or 6 years or maybe even a decade for me to move. And that one reason is healthcare. If I fall sick in this village, I know there's no hospital nearby, right? I'll have to travel at least 2.5 hours to get to the nearest hospital. And it's not a very good hospital. It's not a hospital you trust your life with. And my fear is that if I brought my parents here and I started living here and one of my parents felt sick, it would be impossible for me to get them to a hospital on time and I wouldn't trust that hospital. So that's the only con. I'm sure it's going to be fixed someday because even in places like this, the Wi-Fi is blazing fast. 5 years ago, if you told me that villages are going to have fast Wi-Fi, I would have laughed at you. But because that's changed, I'm also hopeful for other stuff to change. If somebody can lay the fiber lines here, I'm sure somebody can go out and ship the meds to these pharmacies. And I'm also pretty sure some smart, enterprising individual is going to go out and build a hospital. I think what's going to happen first is people are first going to start moving. And because people in the pharma industry will see people moving here, they're going to go out and build hospitals. So I think it's more like effect rather than cause, right? Because a few people start moving here, that's why the hospitals are going to come up. And that's the time where I think the mass exodus of people leaving will happen. And that's good because there are so many villages with respect to cities. There are only like a few metros, but there's so many villages. So it's going to be all evenly distributed. People are all not going to move to the same populated village. They're actually moving to different villages that speak to their heart and where their community moves along with them. Problem है ना कि we don't understand or realize that moving to the village is an actual option, right? I don't know why. People should realize times have changed and it should happen. So this video is made for that education. If you can share this with your friends who actually are like-minded and want to live in the villages with you and work in the villages with you, then you have community living locked in right there. So I'm very excited to see what you guys create living out of the villages. Bye.